All right, what a wild day. The 49ers, the same team that supposedly was going to have to forfeit this season because they had so many injuries over the course of training camp. That at least was the tone of some of the takes that we saw online. They have everyone on this 70-man roster healthy, including Jauan Jennings, who obviously was practicing today, except for Jordan Watkins. Everyone healthy except for the rookie receiver, Jordan Watkins, who might be back sooner rather than later. The reason that I give you the spreadsheet is because you have followed along for quite some time know that this is usually littered with the pink shading. Usually you're going to see a whole lot of color that is not green, or that's for rookies, or turquoise that is for free agent signings, or yellow/gold that is for the A-list pillars. So this is absolutely jarring to me to see this. The 49ers have their healthiest roster right now since 2023, the early part of the season before Talanoa Hufanga tore his ACL. Obviously, there was no good point of 2024. Christian McCaffrey and the Achilles happened that season. It happened before the season even kicked off. And then just a whole host of other problems happened in 2024 for the 49ers. They are now in a position where they can confidently enter this 2025 season and say that this is close to our best shot. Now, I get that Brandon Ayuk is on the PUP list. I get that Malik Mustafa is on the PUP list. So you can say 20 out of 22 starters, but let me break you something here. You're not going to get better than 20 out of 22 in a typical NFL week, even at your very best health. So if you got 20 out of 22 starters ready to go on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, this is a team that's locked, loaded, and ready to go. So just to recap what we saw today for the 49ers, Jauan Jennings back out on that practice field. I wouldn't speak too soon about anything Jennings and contract related as far as, he caved or, this happened. Obviously, he's back out there, but it's different than the Brandon Ayuk situation in that he had already been out there for the first few days of training camp, and he was happy in the locker room today, although he didn't speak to the media. So, there's a chance that the 49ers are able to get something done with Jauan Jennings even after he returns to practice. Let's put it that way. The reason I say that is because this has been a good faith operation when Jauan Jennings has been on the field. Like, that's been the vibe that we've gotten from both him and the 49ers. I mean, Kyle Shanahan talked about it at the start of training camp. He said that this is a tough needle to thread, and we know that Jauan wants a new contract. The best way to a resolution, though, is if he doesn't pull a Brandon Ayuk, if he's out there on that practice field. And we saw that at the start of camp. Then we saw the calf injury. We know that it was obviously more complicated than that. But now we saw Jennings back the same day that Kendrick Bourne was at the 49ers facility. By the way, Kendrick Bourne, this is what he just posted on Instagram. If you zoom in on the screen, you guys see that right here? It says Washington Dulles. He's flying West Coast to East Coast because he's visiting the Commanders tomorrow. We had surmised before this day that Kendrick Bourne, if he did everything to satisfy the 49ers physical metrics, because he did have the foot injury when he was with the New England Patriots, we had surmised that they wouldn't let him leave the building because they would want him to sign a contract. But Bourne is in fact leaving the building. The twist that we didn't factor into that prediction a few days ago was Jauan Jennings. Would he return to practice on Monday? And he did. Now, whether or not that's a coincidence remains to be seen. I know a lot of people are just trying to connect these dots and make it all make sense in their heads. And I think that they're jumping to some conclusions here. I think that you could see Kendrick Bourne in the building and you could say, Jauan Jennings got scared. That's why he went right back to the practice field on this Monday. And you could say that seems like a cool story. I'm going to run with it, but I'm not going to run with it until I actually know how this all ends, until I know the actual facts of the situation. I'm not going to start connecting dots that I'm not sure should be connected in this instance. Yes, it's obvious the 49ers were trying to put some pressure on Jauan Jennings by deepening their receiver room. It's obvious that Kendrick Bourne might have been part of the applied pressure. But I don't think that it's necessarily fair to assume that Bourne being in the buildings got Jauan Jennings into a situation where he said, "Oh my God, I have to rush back out onto the practice field." I think that it's interesting that deadlines for the 49ers have at this wide receiver position have seemed to hover around this date. Last year, Brandon Ayuk took the practice field for the first time on Labor Day. This year, Jauan Jennings retakes the practice field on Labor Day. The difference being that Brandon Ayuk got a massive new contract to get him out there, but the other difference being that Jauan Jennings had already been on the practice field this year. So people will want to draw parallels between those two situations. And I think that the date of the return to practice, Labor Day, is an obvious symmetry, but there are other things surrounding both situations that make them very, very different. Bottom line is that Jauan Jennings was back out at practice. That should make 49ers fans very happy alongside the other returns. This is why I have the roster out so we can take a look at who else is back. One, the guy that I just highlighted right here, Dominic Pooney, 49ers starting right guard. So it's going to go Williams, Barch, Brendel, Pooney, and Colton McKivitz. Obviously not a lock that Dominic Pooney is going to be ready to play on Sunday at Seattle, but I think that, boy, it's really, really trending in that direction now. A couple weeks ago when he got hurt in Las Vegas, it didn't look good with the way that Dominic was walking off the field, unable to bend his knee. Now it looks a whole lot better since he's out on the practice field. So he's proven to be a warrior. He's somebody that's shown some durability already. His rookie season when he's able to play all those games for the 49ers. And I think that the latest recovery from the injury scare for Dominic Pooney is something that shows that he could be durable again for the 49ers here in his second year. And they're not going to have to start Connor Colby, the rookie, the right guard coming out of Iowa, if Pooney is able to go on Sunday. So that's trending in the right direction. Yetur Gross-Matos, just about 10 days ago, Kyle Shanahan said that it was trending toward him starting on PUP. He had the knee issue that dated back to last year, definitely back to OTAs. But then when they created their 53-man roster, when it cut down on Wednesday or the last Tuesday for the 49ers, Yetur Gross-Matos was on it. They activated him from PUP. So that was the first indication that things were trending in a good direction for Yetur Gross-Matos. Now he's back out at practice. And, people, I think, are sleeping on how important he's going to be to this defensive line. This is an inexperienced 49ers defense. Take a look at what they have up front. It's Bosa, obviously, the ringleader here, but beyond that, it's Mykel Williams, a rookie starting on the other side. It's Kalia Davis, who's going to be in his first truly featured extended opportunity. And it's Jordan Elliott, who's been around the league, but not as a starter. Jordan Elliott has been a rotational defensive tackle that's going to be counted on to be the 49ers' first-string guy, at least to start this season, because you have relatively inexperienced players like second-year Jordan Jefferson, whom they just claimed off of waivers. Bryce Huff, I get it. He's been around for a while, but he's going to play 33% of the snaps. He's a third-down edge rusher for the 49ers. C.J. West, a rookie. Alfred Collins, that's another rookie. That's an especially green rookie for the 49ers. And Robert Beal Jr., who I think made the team with his great surge at the end of preseason, but this is not somebody with a ton of NFL snaps under his belt. So you're looking at a very inexperienced defensive line. Yetur Gross-Matos right here is someone who is going to model what they want out of Mykel Williams, which is outside edge rush on running downs. So set the edge against the base packages, and then on passing situations when it's a nickel package for the 49ers, when they really need to get after the passer, rush the quarterback, they're going to move Yetur Gross-Matos to the inside to work against some of those guards, to take advantage of his athleticism against some of those stouter players on the inside who are more used to playing inside a phone booth. And that's exactly what the 49ers want to do with Michael Williams. That's what they want to do with Yetur Gross-Matos. Numbers are so important along the defensive line, especially numbers with experience. And, a lot of people are saying, oh, Yetur, he's just one of those older defensive linemen. He's not. He's much younger than somebody like Leonard Floyd, somebody like Malik Collins. This is somebody in his 20s still. This is not like the defensive lineman the 49ers jettisoned over the offseason. Yetur is an up-and-coming prospect who played in a different system at Carolina. I'll always say he won an NFC Defensive Player of the Week last year against the Chicago Bears. And I think that he's going to be that support for Michael Williams so that Michael can, if it's possible to ease into the league on a team that's this inexperienced and this young defensively. But so Michael can take some of those baby steps, at least early on, Yetur is going to be there. And I think that's tremendously positive and tremendously important for the 49ers. Also back out at practice, Russell Gage. And you're probably going to see him as the third receiver to open this year for the 49ers. So Pearsall, of course, he's the number one. Jauan Jennings back. I would expect him to be one of the top two for San Francisco. We'll talk a little bit about his financial incentives here in a couple minutes. Russell Gage, for a while, he was leading all 49ers with training camp catches. He's going to be the number 3 for San Francisco. And then on this side of the practice squad 53-man division, you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who I think could be he's going to mix in there as one of the 49ers' 5 eligible receivers. But I'm not really sure how many snaps he's going to get now that Jennings for sure is back at practice. And I think that means Jennings for sure is going to be playing on Sunday. And we'll talk about those incentives right now. Sky Moore, though, can be in his gadget weapon spot, which is what the 49ers want. They didn't want Sky Moore trying to play one of the top 2 or even top 3 receiver positions. If Sky can be that 5th wideout who's eligible to go out there and touch the football and do some stuff for the 49ers, well, that's exactly where you want him. You don't want him at a true X wide receiver position. Anyway, Jauan Jennings, with the contract escalator he earned in 2024, is in a spot now for the 49ers to make nearly $50,000 a game each time that he's on the active roster. That is one of the things that he stood to lose if he didn't practice, if he wasn't able to come back from the calf injury. I don't know how much of it was contract related, how much of it was calf related. We know that both were at play. But if Jennings will not back out at practice this week and not active for the game against Seattle, if the 49ers put him on injured reserve, if that forced him to miss 4 games, he would lose at least $36,000. And I think with the escalator, it'd be nearly $50,000 per game in bonus money. And that is no small deal. This is not somebody who's signed a contract for $30 million annually like Brandon Ayuk. So there's a reason why we said the 49ers had a lot of leverage in this Jauan Jennings situation, and it's because of the incentives and the contractual control in 2025. And I mean, we figured that if the 49ers would play ultra hardball, that Jennings would probably have to blink. That being said, that can come with a cost, right? That kind of maniacal obsession with we're going to hold a line in the sand. The receiver has to blink. Financially, he's got to come to us because we've got him under contract. That can lead to some discontent in the locker room. That could set the wrong example, too, for other guys. Because Jauan has always done things the right way for the 49ers. He's been emblematic of the physicality that they want. He's obviously worked from practice squad status, 7th-round pick, to being an integral part of the team. So you generally want to take care of your own. And the 49ers have decided that with all the A-list players they have, the guys shaded here in yellow, they're going to do that before the lame duck years of their contract. So like Brock Purdy, before he signed this offseason, he still had a year left on his rookie deal. They took care of Christian McCaffrey way before his deal was up in the 2024 offseason. Somebody like George Kittle, he had a year left. He was entering the lame duck year. They made sure Kittle was taken care of. Williams, that was well ahead of schedule last offseason. Bosa, he was entering the fifth-year option, the final year of his contract. Fred Warner had 2 years left on his deal, and they made sure that was taken care of. Deommodore Lenoir, well, they really got ahead of that one. Deron Bland just re-signed with the Cowboys for a contract that's similar to the Lenoir one, but the 49ers got a better deal for Deommodore, who's had some better numbers here as of late, and they got that done in November of last season. So even though Jauan Jennings did not fall into the bucket of these A-list players because they already paid Brandon Ayuk at that receiver position, and Brandon Ayuk fell into the same type of timing for the 49ers, extended him before the lame duck deal happened. Even though Jauan Jennings might not fit into that exact category when the 49ers are figuring out who to pay and when to pay, he was still entering and still is entering the lame duck year of his deal. So he sees these other guys signing these contracts and he says, well, hey, I've been doing everything right all these years. I also want a pay bump entering this lame duck year. So when the 49ers drew the line in the sand, and again, we don't know exactly how hard that line has been. We can assume that it's been a fairly rigid line, but there could still be some concessions from the 49ers. They don't necessarily have to be given with Jauan Jennings off the practice field. Like Kyle Shanahan said at the start of training camp, hey, you can practice, and that's going to be the best path for us to thread this really difficult needle. It's going to be the best path to find something that's a little bit more fair from a contractual standpoint. So I think it's in the interest of the 49ers to work something out and not just push this off onto the back burner totally just because Jauan Jennings is back out of practice. And that truth has remained throughout this entire saga. That's not something new right now. I think it's in the 49ers' best interest to reward players ahead of lame duck seasons who have done everything that their system, their program asks them to do. I think that's absolutely true. And it's also in the 49ers' best interest to make sure that, these things don't turn into runaway freight trains. And I think, unfortunately, last year with Brandon Ayuk, it turned into a runaway freight train that obviously distracted the team. So they're always walking a delicate tightrope here. And Jauan Jennings, over the first few weeks of the season, is going to be needed more than ever, given the fact that Brandon Ayuk is still on PUP, that I don't know where Jordan Watkins is going to be. We'll see if he somehow makes it back for week one. But these are all things that the 49ers have had to consider. And thankfully, Jauan Jennings is playing good faith football, and he's back out on that practice field for them. And I still, until we hear like that he doesn't want a new contract, or that a new contract or some kind of contract embellishment has indeed come in, till we hear that, I don't consider this case completely closed. Just because I'm constantly thinking of the big picture, and I'm thinking of healthy team building and healthy, reward management out there when it comes to new contracts. So today was a big step for the 49ers in that, Jennings, he's healthy enough to play. That's important with his calf, and he's willing to head out onto that practice field. But that should never stop the cycle of the 49ers being ready to take care of their own players, and the 49ers making sure that everything is contractually set. Jennings is just in between that rock and a hard place, because I don't know, at his age, approaching the age of 30, not quite there yet, but approaching the age of 30 with Ayuk already signed, with Ayuk coming back, free agency coming up next year for Jauan Jennings. 49ers have a very, very narrow window to fill here as far as salary cap sustainability at the receiver position. He might not be in their long-term plans, but he certainly is in their 2025 plans, and they want to make sure that everything is taken care of to everyone's satisfaction as much as possible in that situation. Because Jennings is not the only player in NFL history to sign a contract and then probably deserve a little bit more money before that contract is up. Like these deals in the NFL, they're meant to be rewritten by either the team or the player. You know, one or the other has some power, some leverage to dictate that. Jennings, you know, maybe a little bit more early in this 2025 season, but the 49ers ultimately have the leverage point here for all the reasons that we've been outlining over the past couple of weeks. Anyway, all these returns, 49ers have the healthiest roster they've had since early 2023. They reached a couple injury settlements today, including one for Isaiah Prince, the veteran tackle. So now the 49ers injured reserve list of players who are ineligible to return looks like this. Has Trent Taylor, Teron Jackson, Patrick Taylor Jr., and Jacob Robinson on it. They can find an injury settlement with Jacob Robinson, the undrafted free agent cornerback. That way they can potentially bring him back after he returns from his broken forearm later this season, or they can just stash him on injured reserve all year. That's an option too if Jacob Robinson agrees to it. But Isaiah Prince off of the 49ers roster today because the 49ers did reach that injury settlement with him. And then officially, Kendrick Bourne worked out for the 49ers. That was according to the NFL's transaction tracker. So he must have done some on-field work for San Francisco. And then we had already reported that he was going to be headed to Washington to work out or visit with Adam Peters and the Commanders if he didn't reach a deal with the 49ers. Jennings returned today. 49ers might have raised the threshold of what they need to be convinced to sign somebody like Kendrick Bourne. So Bourne is on his way to Washington after spending Monday in Santa Clara. That's Bourne. And you know what? Here's this. The 49ers can still extend Jennings and sign Kendrick Bourne. Like both of those things can still happen. Like we shouldn't be acting like Jauan Jennings back on the practice field is some kind of dead end in terms of a new contract. This can happen during the course of the season. He's under contract with the 49ers, and they could still obviously sign Kendrick Bourne. Do those two things, like that, if they sign Jennings today or sign him tomorrow, does it make it less likely they sign Kendrick Bourne that very day? Yeah, probably. Because your immediate need, and now that Jennings is back out at practice, I don't think that there's that immediate need for somebody to fill his slot, but your immediate need is obviously diminished. But this receiver room, this should be viewed as a living, breathing thing. Like you take a look at Pearsall, Jennings, Gage, Jordan Watkins hurt right now. Brandon Ayuk coming back later. Sky Moore. You've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the practice squad. Robbie Chosen can come up off the practice squad. I mean, you got a lot of names here. And guys aren't going to stay in the same health situation that they are for the entirety of the season. I mean, last year when Kansas City came in October, the 49ers were absolutely decimated at receiver. And there's a chance that something like that can happen again to the 49ers, in which case you're going to need some more depth. So it's one of those things where just because a particular scenario doesn't make sense this second, doesn't mean that it won't start making sense a week or two from now, which is why you're always building your Rolodex with players who are coming to work out, and you take mental notes of guys who are with you during training camps, and you bring Kendrick Bourne in, and, you know, maybe that there was a chance there'd be an acute desire for the 49ers to sign him when the day started, but then when Jauan Jennings practiced, I mean, we haven't heard from Jauan yet, so I think it's unfair to speculate in any direction, but maybe when Jauan did take the field, that need to potentially sign Kendrick Bourne went down for the 49ers, but there are other things that could bring that need back up for San Francisco. So we should never look at this as like, oh, one body to fill Jauan Jennings' spot. Now that particular receiver isn't needed. I think that's a really foolish way to look at things. I think that this is the living, breathing document, the roster, the depth chart that the 49ers are going to have to constantly tend to over the course of this 2025 season. So much good news for the 49ers today. Healthiest roster since 2023. They're going to have a Players' Day off Tuesday. Then comes the first practice for San Francisco that is specifically Seattle game week. This was a bonus practice today, Labor Day. It saw the return of Brandon Ayuk to the practice field last year. It saw the return Jauan Jennings, Dominic Pooney, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Russell Gage to the practice field this season. But Wednesday is the first true game week practice for the 49ers. So on this very, very big day, I'm happy to answer some of your questions. Who is Sincere McCormick? Sincere McCormick is a running back that is on the practice squad. He's the 49ers depth there. He was with the Raiders before San Francisco. He's built a lot like Jordan James and Corey Kiner, who's no longer with San Francisco, but Jordan James, the rookie running back, is one of the 53-man roster guys. 5'8", decent receiver out of the backfield. McCormick gets his chance now on the 49ers practice squad after spending a couple seasons with the Raiders. All right, I'm ready for some questions here. As you can tell, I'm in Nashville right now. We don't have a normal camera, which is why it might look a little bit different. I decided I was in New York, and I thought I was going to fly back to San Francisco. And then I said, let's go back to Nashville. And so I'm going to be here for just a little bit. Then I'm going to go back to San Francisco. Our big camera is in SF right now. So we're using this little Osmo. I think it's working decently well. Now, the internet, I show up here, the internet's out. So we're literally streaming this. This phone right here is doing a lot of heavy lifting. We are literally connected through this phone, through a tethering, laptop to the iPhone, to the internet, through this other camera. It's all battery power, no wired or even Wi-Fi internet connection here. This is all through a cellular data plan. So I apologize if the quality is a little bit shaky, but I'm going to try to answer all your questions. It's a hotspot, yes. It's doing a lot of work, though. We're streaming from a hotspot. That's why I put it down to 720p, so it wouldn't choke everything up here. Why isn't Alfred Collins starting? Because he's a rookie. He's a rookie that's got a lot of development to do. It's tougher for tall guys. He's got to learn how to play with the leverage that is going to be successful at the NFL level. I'm sure that they'll try to get him into the rotation as soon as they can, but I don't see him starting week one, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay. If you look at the roster here for the 49ers, there's a reason you've got Jordan Elliott and why you kept him on this team as a veteran. There's a reason why Kalia Davis is listed as one of the 49ers first stringers here. He's been working hard over the course of the past few seasons, coming back from the college ACL tear. Those guys have to bridge the gap before somebody like Alfred Collins is going to be fully ready to go for the 49ers. We shouldn't, we need to let go of this instant gratification need from rookies. It really is sometimes too much to ask for a rookie to step in and be a starting level player in the NFL from day one. And somebody like Alfred Collins, I think he's improved immensely. I think the conditioning has gotten a lot better over the course of training camp. I think the leverage, he's playing a lot lower. And I think that he's on a good trajectory to be part of that 49ers rotation and be an effective part of this 49ers defensive line. But I wouldn't necessarily expect that to happen from day one. I think that they're going to spoon feed him. He's going to get more and more time as this 2025 season progresses. As Ed says, game reps are so important for these rookies. Shanahan is evolving, but he had no choice for the season also. Yeah, well, if somebody like Alfred Collins is going to need game reps, but you also want to make sure that you give him the game reps in healthy, manageable doses as this season begins. So it's one of those things where they'll find a balance. They've got Robert Saleh. They have Chris Kasarik. I think those guys have built a really good defense before, and they're going to have to do it with the likes of Alfred Collins and others as 2025 begins. This is a really good question. Wouldn't Kyle Shanahan prefer the experienced Lucas to start the season over the rookie Stout? This is very possible. I'm just guessing with this roster right now because I saw right here Upton Stout at the nickelback position. Could highlight it here for you guys. I saw Upton rise up the 49ers depth chart in impressive fashion before he got hurt, before the calf injury happened. And Then he came back, and we didn't have a chance to see any team drills with Upton Stout back. They didn't allow us to watch that part of practice anymore. This was after training camp. So I just kind of figured that Upton Stout might be in the same depth chart spot as he had vaulted to before. But it is very possible that this theory up on the screen, that Shanahan might prefer the experienced Lucas to start over the rookie Stout, it is entirely possible for that to be the case. We're just going to have to wait to watch what happens in Seattle on Sunday. Yes, the 49ers will be relying on rotation across the D-line. But hey, even the best 49ers D-line under Kocurek in 2019 relied on rotation. You've got to stay fresh at this level. It's not about the starting four. It's about the full 8-man or even 9-man rotation at times. The 49ers, and we'll do a big video about this soon, they've got 28 linemen on this roster between the D-line and the O-line. So they have loaded up along the fronts. There shouldn't be no more complaints about investment there. The roster investment there has been intense from San Francisco. The defensive line especially has got a lot of bodies, and they will be relying on rotation. Dave asked, what will the first play on Sunday be? Run or pass? He thinks run with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, if you're trying to establish a tone for the season, maybe you do that. But also, I'm always a proponent of run what the defense is not set up to guard. So if the Seahawks are out there expecting the 49ers to go heavy run on first down and prove a point with Christian McCaffrey, I think it's a great time for a play fake. Great time to attack downfield. I think generally teams are a little bit more timid on both sides of the ball. First play, I think the Seahawks will probably be back in base defense. They're not going to do anything crazy blitz-wise. They'll concede a 5 or 6 yard run on the first play of the season. Just the way that it probably works. Nobody wants to be the defensive coordinator who gets roasted by a deep play fake on the first snap from scrimmage of 2025. So because the Seahawks will be aligned that way, I think the 49ers will hand off to McCaffrey. They'll get there 4, 5, 6 yards, and then the chess match can truly begin. Trust me, they already do trust Brock Purdy. He can change the play at the line of scrimmage. He comes up with several options, and he can change the play. Just because they've got some preset options for the line of scrimmage instead of him completely improvising, that does not mean that there's a lack of trust between Shanahan and Purdy. In fact, you watch some of that 49ers build video, I think they call it the build, right? They go deep into a lot of they mic up the guys and the coaches. It's really clear that Kyle Shanahan is blown away by Brock Purdy with just the way that he processes the plays as they're communicated to him. It is a myth that the Shanahan quarterback setup means that there's some kind of lack of trust in the QB. What you're trying to do is allow the QB to play as freely as possible, but Purdy still has a lot of puppet strings that he could pull when he gets up to that line of scrimmage. What do I predict the 49ers Seahawks score to be? Well, I don't have a prediction yet because those come on Saturday. We'll have the prediction on Saturday. I think we're going to do the same thing this year. Will the 49ers beat the Seahawks is going to come out on Friday. 49ers Seahawks score prediction is going to come out on Saturday. So we're going to spend the week diagnosing the game, taking a look at some tape, saying this is where the 49ers can attack. The key right now is that San Francisco is healthy. I mean, look at this. Unbelievable, right? 49ers as healthy as they've been since early 2023 with a lot of these returns. And they all, this is one of the reasons why I wrote this on Twitter a little bit earlier today. I really hope that this is a lesson, that it helps evolve how training camp is covered. Because there was so much context-free, breathless discourse surrounding injuries that might have led people to believe the 49ers would have to forfeit the season. But now 99% of the 49ers 70-man roster, literally 99%, is healthy to open this season. The operative question should have been throughout this, how healthy will the roster be week 1? That's the main thing. Like these stupid rabbit holes of, they're not stretching, or, fire the training staff. All of that, it was such a distraction and such a miss of the main point, which is, okay, all NFL teams are hurt right now. It's just the nature of the sport and the nature of the modern multi-billion-dollar league. But how's the roster going to look week one? How many of these injuries are short-term? And it turns out for the 49ers, a whole heck of a lot of them were short-term injuries. And they've been able to get everybody back on the field, minus about 1.5% of the 70-man roster. They've been able to get everybody back by week one, including Jauan Jennings, which obviously has been the big fish that we've been talking about here over the past couple of weeks. So hopefully the way that people covered this training camp, which led to all kinds of wrong conclusions about the 49ers and their ability to roster a team in 2025. Hopefully people draw some lessons from this. I think we're going to be seeing a ton of training camp injuries every year in NFL. I think that's just, if you listen to my interview with Jim Cotta, the former Lakers trainer, he talks a lot about the dynamics of guys working away from the team facility, then being reintegrated into camp, the different dynamics of camp, and then just the fact these guys are bigger and stronger and faster than ever before. There's a lot of muscle that you have to keep healthy. I think that soft tissue injuries are here to be a real staple of NFL training camp. And the challenge of NFL training staffs is taking these guys and having the 6 or 7 weeks that you do have with all of them over camp and getting them healthy for week one. How do you field a team that's ready to go week one? And the 49ers have actually done a tremendous job of that over the course of this offseason. Yeah, of course, we're not counting the guys out till week 6 or so because they're not part of the active roster. I'm saying this is the 49ers' healthiest active roster. The thing is, it's not really fair to count Brandon Ayuk and Malik Mustafa as injuries on the 2025 watch because they got hurt in 2024. Also not fair to count Curtis Rourke. The two guys who have gotten hurt this year who are not going to be back anytime soon are Jacob Cowing and Kevin Givens. I'd say that's a pretty good overall score for the 49ers if those are the two guys who are on the shelf hurt this training camp, and the only two. I think that's a fairly good overall score for San Francisco. Dave says he thinks that the 53-man rosters are too small. I tend to agree. I think that might help a lot of things if you had bigger 53-man, bigger rosters. I think that there are so many pinch points on a 53-man roster that even the 49ers did their best to make it like a 57, 58-man roster with some of their maneuvers at the cut down. Why not just give teams 55 or 56 guys? I think that could really help some of the, just avoid some of these, they're borderline silly maneuvers when you cut a guy and then re-sign him the next day. Ends up being crazy. People asking me about the Bill Belichick blowout tonight. Oh, I just thought it was funny. You had so many people, mainly like national media, after the first drive saying, oh, the league is going to have to explain why they didn't hire Bill Belichick. And it's like, guys, it was one drive. Especially like a season opening drive against the vanilla defense. You script the first, drive, and so does the defense, and you don't make adjustments. You can never tell if a team is good or not. You can never judge a coach based on the first drive. But people on social media try to do that with Bill Belichick, and it didn't look good because he ended up getting blown out. So I'm going to reserve judgment. I know he's got like 70 transfers. I'm going to wait probably more than a season to say if he's doing a good job or not at North Carolina. I know that doesn't fit with the hot take culture that we currently live in, but that was my take on the North Carolina game tonight. I didn't think that he was great after the first drive, and I'm not going to say that everything is terrible after the whole game because it takes a while to build up a program in college football. Yep, as Portola. Is it Portola or Portola? Because I know the neighborhood in San Francisco is pronounced Portola, but Portola Valley is pronounced Portola. Anyway, he said the 49ers had no punter during the 53-man cut down. He is correct. That's how silly that maneuvering had to be for the 49ers. But they had to do it. I mean, it wasn't silly for them. I'm just saying it was silly in general. But then they re-signed Thomas Morstead the next day. Any more questions? I'm ready for them. Yes. Relax. Oh, there's Joe. Joe's a big Cal fan. I'm sure he's excited about their new quarterback. Had a good outing against Oregon State the other day. That's hilarious that both of you guys, Ed and Joe, look, they may both be Thomas Morstead in hiding. Well, actually, I've met Joe in person, so I think that he's not Ed. It's just funny. Smash that like button. Do everything you can to support the channel. This was a big day for the 49ers. Guys are back. Guys are healthy. Look at this. This roster, if you like a healthy football roster, I think that it qualifies as a thing of beauty. Not a lot of injury shading on there, and we'll have an update we'll have an update on Jordan Watkins for you soon. All right, we went through the ringer today. Flew from New York to Nashville. Didn't have internet functioning. Tethered the phone. I think it went fine. A nice thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, whatever would be very, very appreciated. Everybody, thank you for watching. Big day for the Niners. Jauan Jennings back out on that practice field. I don't think that situation, I think it's obviously something that's working out in the 49ers' favor right now. He's out on the field. That's what they like to see. He's healthy enough to be there. But I think that contractually, something might still happen moving forward. At least I'm keeping my eyes peeled for it. So Kendrick Bourne flying to DC. Jauan Jennings back out at practice. Big show tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to everybody soon.